how to make meditation doable and actually useful to you. Introduction. This video is all about meditation, and I don't want you to think of meditation as about sitting on a mat and becoming good at meditating. You're doing meditation so that you get good at life. It's about tracking your inner body so that you don't say yes to something when you mean no, so that you don't shut down when you actually need to speak up, and so that you don't get aggressive or defensive when that's not going to be helpful. Meditation has nothing to do with religion or belief systems. It's about the ability to be with what is and slow it down enough so that you can actually have a choice in how you respond. Slowing down enough so that you make appropriate choices around food and can track and transform the addictive cycles that you're in. Keep in mind the habits we're wanting to address usually don't have verbal solutions to them. The solutions are going to be a lived experience in your body solution. So in this video, you're going to learn about 3 simple meditation techniques. I'll explain which ones are good for what, and 3 hacks to make sure meditation is fun and actually happens, as well as 3 pitfalls to be aware of. What kind of meditation works best? Meditation and exercise have some parallels. We all know we should probably be doing them, but then are we actually doing them, and are we doing them regularly enough? Often the answer is no. And a little like with exercise, on some level it really doesn't matter what you do, just move your body in a way that resonates for you. The same is true for meditation. Try out a few different approaches and see which one you like the most or which you hate the least, and take it from there. I think we often overcomplicate meditation in our society, and that's partly because we think meditation is more complicated than it actually is. So there can be this idea that we have to take some expensive course in meditation and get access to the right teacher, which I just don't think is true. I also think we make life difficult for ourselves by having this idea of meditation as being linked to arriving at a place of being so still that you have no thoughts, which is a really unhelpful way to think of meditation, because you can't stop your mind from thinking in the same way you can't stop your eyes from blinking. They're involuntary actions, and if you think of thoughts as the enemy, then you're likely to be judging your meditation as not right or not good enough, which usually leads to ditching the entire practice because it feels pointless and just too hard. I think it's more useful to think of meditation as just a practice of slowing down and being with what is. That's it. Mindfulness meditation practices. Mindfulness meditation is sometimes also referred to as insight meditation or vipassana. Many mindfulness meditation practices will have similar instructions, whether they're happening on a meditation app on your phone or in an in-person 10-day silent vipassana meditation retreat. And those instructions are usually sit and close your eyes, have an upright posture with a straight back, feet flat on the floor if you're sitting in a chair, or crossed if you're sitting on a meditation cushion on the floor. Then bring your attention to your breath. The suggestion is usually to focus on the sensation at the tip of your nostrils, noticing the air coming in and going out. In and out. In and out. Or if you prefer, you can focus on the breath by the stomach, feeling the rising and falling of your belly or even your chest. And every time you notice your mind wandering off, as soon as you realize you're off on some thought stream, you just gently bring yourself back to the practice of focusing on your breath with 0 judgment. And that's pretty much it. With mindfulness meditation, you're basically attending to the flow of ordinary experience. So the flow of your breath being kind of the central handle. But you might also focus on sounds around you, or even an itch or a pain that's showing up in your body. So each moment of ordinary experience is just met with this awareness. If you haven't done any meditation ever, it might be a good idea to start with a mindfulness meditation practice that's a guided meditation with somebody talking you through the instructions. There are a ton of apps for meditation. I'm not an affiliate of any, but you might want to try the Headspace app, which offers their basic course free of charge. I think they make meditation very accessible, and I love their little cartoons explaining meditation in really simple but powerful ways. And I put a link to one of the cartoons that they sprinkle through their trainings below, where they describe meditation as simply watching the traffic and the cars go by. They're obviously a metaphor for thoughts, and then invariably we forget we're meant to be just watching the cars or the thoughts, and we get into the road and run after the cars, and there's this cute little cartoon character that's chasing the cars and getting in the way of traffic. It's just a very helpful analogy. With Headspace, first you do their basic course, but they also offer packages for stress or anxiety, for transforming anger, for better sleep, for being more productive, and so on. I think they can be a really helpful way of finding your feet with meditation, because you're being led through the process, reminded to come back to the breath, reminded to be gentle with yourself, and not to judge any thoughts. Plus, they usually give you a little bit of time within the guided meditation to practice on your own in silence. So you get a little bit of a taste of what it's like to meditate on your own. It's important to remember that you're not doing this so that you get good at tracking sensations by your nostrils. You're doing this because if you can slow down and track the air going in and out of your nostrils, you'll also get better at connecting with your body, just full stop. So noticing when you're heading to the fridge because you feel anxious about, the document you're working on, or maybe bored by it. It gets easier to track the anxious and the bored feelings and stay with them versus eat on them when you're doing this practice. Bodyscan meditations. Another type of mindfulness meditation is the body scan. If you can, I definitely try and incorporate some body scans into your practice, because in a world where many of us are disembodied, body scans are a powerful tool for connecting our heads with our hearts and our bodies. I think it's hugely useful to have our attention drawn down into our toes, our ankles, our legs and stomach and chest. Sometimes when people are disconnected from their bodies and they spend all of their time stuck in their heads, focusing on the breath by the nostrils can feel a bit limiting to me, because you're keeping your attention by your head versus drawing it down. So the more you bring your attention down into the body, actually feeling the body from the inside and tolerating the sensations there, the better you'll be at slowing down and interrupting cycles like binging or purging or panic attacks, for that matter. The body scan meditations that are most useful are the ones that just encourage you to notice sensations and be with what you notice without trying to change your experience. They're better, I think, than progressive muscle relaxation, where you're invited to tighten and then release each muscle group. Because with those, there's a lot of emphasis on relaxing and on doing something versus just practicing sitting with the dis-ease and discomfort, which is key if you're trying to change your relationship with food or any addictive pattern. Below, I've put a link to the Insight Timer app and my favorite body scan on that app by Elisha Goldstein, as well as my favorite sleep meditation on the app called Nidra For Sleep by Jennifer Percy. What I like about the Insight Timer app is that it's completely free and you have access to 19,000 different meditations from hundreds of different teachers. All the meditations are rated out of 5 stars, so you can be pretty certain that something like the Yoga Nidra For Sleep, which is rated a 4.7 out of 5, is going to be good. A, given the rating, and B, given the fact that it's been played 6.2 million times. What I like about the Insight Timer app is that it allows you to try new things. It's impossible to get bored. You can search by teacher, by theme. There's a community section, so you can see who's meditating to what. I just took a look and somebody in Sydney is meditating to heart chakra activation, and somebody in Fort Worth is meditating to sound meditation with Tibetan singing. So you can get a sense of all sorts of approaches without spending any money. Mantra meditation. A mantra is a word or phrase repeated in a prayer or meditative way. In Sanskrit, the word mantra can be broken down to 2 syllables, meaning man, which means to think, and tra, meaning tool. So a literal translation would be a tool for thinking or an instrument of thought. With mantra meditation, it's more common to have your back supported, so by a wall or a chair, though I think it's best to keep your head free and unsupported, as that makes it less likely you'll fall asleep. You then repeat a mantra to yourself for maybe 15 minutes. You're saying the mantra in your mind, so not out loud. When you say that mantra in your mind, at times it may seem very loud, or very quiet, or drift off into the distance and come back again. And of course, some thinking will arise, and as soon as you notice you're thinking, your job is to bring yourself back to the mantra without any judgment. You'll have to try them out yourself, but typically mantra meditation feels relatively easy and brings some immediate calming effects. So mindfulness takes more effort, in my opinion, and can feel more like work, because you're staying with all the difficult, not always pleasant sensations, even when they're dull or uncomfortable. Mantra meditation feels more like a holiday to me. You float off, repeating the mantra, 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 mantra. It's often quite soothing, I can feel it now. I use mantra meditation to de-stress, and within minutes I can feel my tension sort of leaving my neck and shoulders. So I think it's a great practice to weave into your afternoon, either when you're overwhelmed with to-dos or having that mid-afternoon slump or tiredness. A 15-minute mantra meditation can be a great way of replenishing your energy reserves without grabbing a coffee. Transcendental meditation is just a trademarked form of mantra meditation. It's often marketed as somehow better or somehow unique, but it's really just mantra meditation. And the mantra, sometimes called a seed mantra or root mantra, is just a word to focus on or a sound to focus on. The word doesn't really matter as much as we think it does. We often gravitate to words in Sanskrit and ascribe a depth and meaning and mysticism, partly because it's not our everyday language. It sounds foreign, which can make it feel more exotic or powerful. And there's probably some truth that different sounds have different energetic vibrations that impact our body or chakras slightly differently. But for our purposes here, really any word will do. I wouldn't pick a concrete word like car or sheep, because as soon as you think that word, you'll be thinking about cars and sheep. So non-words or more ethereal words are better. If you Google mantra meditations, you'll often hear whole phrases sung like Om Shanti Om. Om is believed to be the primordial and sacred sound of the whole cosmos or universe, while Shanti means peace. So Om Shanti Om would mean peace for all humankind, peace for all living and non-living entities. When you're starting a mantra practice, I think it's easier to start with one word. So pick any word that you like the sound of that helps you drop into some ease. Some examples in English might be one, peace, or ease. Or if you prefer an actual Sanskrit word, you could use Om, meaning sound of the universe, or Shanti, meaning peace, or Satya, meaning truthfulness, Ananda, meaning bliss, Aham, meaning I am, Swaha, meaning surrender, Shakti, meaning feminine power. I've put them all down on your homework sheet below. 3 hacks to make meditation easier and more fun. Meditation is a practice like any other. There'll be times when you feel inspired, times when you won't, and times when it feels easier and times when it feels harder. So I wanted to give you 3 hacks that can make meditation more juicy. The first, at the start of a meditation, when you're trying to bring yourself into a meditative space, by far the easiest way of doing that is just to close your eyes and notice the sounds you can hear around you, both loud or very faint. It's a very quick way of getting present, and really you could use any of your senses. So if hearing isn't appealing, you could focus on touch, so what you can feel, the clothes on your skin, or your body making contact with the chair or the floor. Smell or taste would also work. It's simple and effective, whatever meditation you go on to do. 2, at the end of your meditation, it can be fun to spend a minute on gratitude. So most of you might have heard of gratitude lists, so jotting down 3 things you're grateful for each day. It's a practice that can really totally shift your mood and keep your heart open. It's something you can do at the end of a meditation where you mentally note 3 things you're grateful for in that moment. And 3, at the end of the meditation, you could also add a minute or 2 of visualization. Again, many of you will have come across this technique. It's basically where in your mind's eye, you're picturing something that you'd like to happen as if it's happening in the present. So whether that's your body having healed, walking into the party, feeling confident and open, being in a loving relationship, being on stage, whatever it is, it's fun and exciting, and you're doing that practice when you're at your most relaxed and open, which I think is powerful. Pitfall number 1, to avoid around scheduling. Ideally, we're told to have a morning meditation practice, which makes sense. It's a great time to set yourself up for the day and be intentional and connected to yourself. So if you can pull that off at the same time every morning, that would be the ideal. If you're a parent with a baby or young kids, this is where that gets more unrealistic and you'll have to improvise. If you're up a lot during the night with kids, or for any other reason really, any bit of sleep is really precious, and it doesn't always make sense to set an alarm to wake up super early to meditate before the baby's awake. So what I do is I aim to meditate 15 minutes twice a day. Sometimes I wake up before the kids, and so I'll meditate then. But sometimes that just doesn't happen, and in the race to get my young kids fed and dressed and off to preschool, meditation gets binned, in which case it'll definitely happen in the afternoon, which is actually a great time to meditate also, because it can interrupt that tense and stressful must get through my to-do list spiral. I find scheduling meditation twice a day means I'll definitely do it at least once, which is a win. Pitfall number 2, to avoid around being interrupted. There is no such thing as interruption when you're meditating, in my opinion. Sure, it's lovely if you're in a super quiet enclave, but the reality is we're meditating to get good at life. And to get good at life, we need to shift our thinking from, oh no, this has gone wrong, to, something unexpected has happened. Let me welcome it as I decide what to do next. Plus, I think meditating in a place that's noisy is powerful because life doesn't happen on an isolated hilltop. We're trying to get good at life when we're in the midst of chaos and overwhelm. That doesn't mean I sit down next to a highway to meditate. It just means if I'm meditating in the morning and my kids wake up, it's fine if they come into the room and play. My 3-year-old daughter will even sometimes crawl up into my lap. And you know what? It still works. I have those little sand timers, and the green one is 15 minutes, so the kids can see how long I have left. But they're not excluded or banned from the room. In fact, at 5 or 6 p.m, if I'm feeling tired, I'll let them know I need to meditate for 15 minutes, and they just play around me. Sometimes if I'm cranky, my 5-year-old will even ask me if I need to meditate. And I'll be like, yes, I do. They see it as something one does when you're wanting to find some peace or navigate feelings, which I think is awesome. The only exception around interruptions is alarms. I think using an alarm to signal the end of a meditation is totally counterproductive. Much better to open your eyes and just check an actual clock or your wristwatch a few times rather than be shocked out of meditation by an alarm, even if you've found a nice sounding one. Pitfall number 3 to avoid around being too ambitious. The key is to make it happen. I've had times in my life where I wake up and meditate for 1 minute because that's all I felt I could manage or show up to. Anybody can do a minute. Start with what feels doable, work up to 5 minutes, then 10, then 15. Make it fun, keep it light. If you're struggling to make meditation a daily practice, you can also use meditation at certain junctures in the day instead, like when the food is calling you or you're about to binge. So you're headed to the pantry, you know you're not really hungry, you're probably feeling something, but who knows what. great. Get your Insight Timer app, do 10-minute body scan or any meditation. And then if you still want to eat the thing, you can, but at least you spent 5 or 10 minutes trying to feel into and trying to tolerate the sensations that were going on for you. That's really what this practice is about. When I think back to 2 decades ago, I remember I knew I needed to sit with the feelings as a binge was brewing, but it felt impossible to do. And I remember hitting what felt like this steel wall where I was like, I can't do it. I just need to go and binge. Whatever it was, I could not feel it. And in retrospect, what it was an inability to soften and relax. I didn't know how to let go in my body and feel what was there. All I could feel when I stopped was this rigid wall of tension, which was really the tension and tightness that protects us from feeling. It's the wall that shows up when we're kind of like bracing against feeling. And that wall-like feeling felt so tense and tight. I'd invariably tell myself there is no way I can sit with this all evening. So really the only way to relieve this tension or impasse is to eat and purge. And I'm mentioning it so that you know that if you're bumping up against what feels like a wall, your job is to soften so you can access what's underneath. And that is not easy. Nobody can really show you how to soften. Plus, you have to remember you've been bracing or hardening against feelings for good reason, probably to get through your childhood in one piece. Summary and next steps. In this video, you've learned about the different types of meditation: mindfulness meditation, where you're tracking your breath or body sensations, and then mantra meditation, where you're repeating a mantra in your mind, not out loud. Your homework is to try at least 2 different types of meditation. The homework document below will help you choose what you want to try, and especially if you're a beginner, maybe starting with a guided meditation from Insight Timer app or Headspace would make sense. Remember, it's not about getting good at meditating. You're never going to be able to stop your thoughts, so please let go of that fantasy. You're doing this so that you can slow down, track what's happening, and make better decisions about what you do and don't eat and how you eat. And as a byproduct, you'll get good at other life stuff as well, like relationships. So go forth and meditate.